The conversation, hyperhidrosis. Still with us, Dr. Ndarathi and of course, Evelyn living with hyperhidrosis. Daktari, question. People or some people sweat on their armpits, their foreheads when they are anxious, generally. Does that mean you can have temporary hyperhidrosis?
Remember we said the body will sweat as a normal response, either for people who are anxious, or if you're exercising, or if you've gone and stepped out in the sun for long. But in patients with hyperhidrosis, it is in excess of what is normal, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Now, Evelyn, you alluded to the stigma that you've had to face all your life. What's the worst it's gotten?
I tried to tell a group of people about hyperhidrosis, and I'm so grateful that the doctor here tried to mention something. I was telling them that I've been living with a condition I knew nothing about back then, but right now at least I have a knowledge of what it is. And they were like, what is it? So I gave us an account of what I've been through and all that. To my surprise, they were like, we jog, we go to the gym, we sweat. So it's nothing, you should not worry about it. I felt like crying because I was like, they don't know what I've been through, you know? So they'll tell you that sweat is healthy. You're healthy. In fact, you're the most healthiest person. And they don't know what that means to you. You can't be the most healthiest person for 30 years. Every day, every single day, you have to experience this. So I tend to avoid them. I tend to avoid such conversations. I tend to avoid anyone who say hurtful words about sweat, you know. But to me, it's more than that, because I suffer psychologically, emotionally, depressed. Sometimes I could even think of suicidal thoughts.
And I think this is where you would explain, because there are some practitioners, health practitioners, who also do not recognize it and would tell a patient, as Evelyn, it is normal.
I do agree. Through this talk, I think people, both practitioners and the general public, will be aware that yes, there are patients who have excessive sweating than what is normal. So like for her, if she's seated and she's giving this interview, and you have to, for example, always hold a piece of tissue or a handkerchief because of the sweating, we cannot say that is normal.
Has this fueled the stigma?
Yes, definitely, because if, for example, a patient wants to seek treatment and they go see a practitioner and they feel what they are experiencing is not genuine, or they feel it's not a serious problem, then definitely there are problems. But I hope to feel that there are practitioners that are aware, not just dermatologists only, but out there, because as we said, there are patients who present with excessive sweating that is because of an underlying disorder.
There are some things that you can't do, like the next lady, right?
I've always wanted to put on makeup, but with this, I cannot. So from the word go, I scrapped it off from my list. I can't put on open shoes throughout the day. In fact, I just can't. Wearing high heels is a problem. You can imagine when I'm on heels and I'm sweating, so my movements will be a bit funny and weird. The kind of dressings too, I have to look for cotton. When I put on the nylon, polyester materials, that's a no for me. I don't use lotion. I don't, there's some places I also don't go to. I don't party.
Have you ever come across somebody who told you to your face, you are different? And
yes. I remember when I cleared high school, I had a friend. And this lady was those kind of people who get jobs, these menial jobs. So there's a day she received a call. Someone was calling her to feature in a movie as an extra. So I was like, can we go together? She looked at me and she said no. Huko wachukwangi watu wanashinda wakisweat. And that's how she made me feel so I think that was the end of my search for looking for jobs. And every day I kept thinking, who will actually employ me? Yes, I got a job, but it was so tough. So it's been tough. Yeah. The stigmatization is real. It is.
Dr. just listening to her, you understand the importance of psychosocial support.
Yes.
Speak on the same.
All the patients we go through, we always try to find out how is it affecting their day-to-day. Something as simple as she says as wanting to apply lotion or applying makeup. So those are things we address when we are seeing patients with hyperhidrosis, because it also determines the treatments that you give. But yes, definitely there is, and also we educating the people who they live with and things like that. But I think through this show, creating awareness for the general public will be definitely important.
Okay, Evelyn, you've clearly found a way to live with it, and I'm sure there's some sort of treatment out there to manage the condition. What have you used so far that works?
I tried Cape. That's a topical treatment, but I tried it once because actually it's so expensive, very expensive.
What is it? For the underarm?
For the palms. I only tried one for the palms and one for the underarm. For the underarm worked, but yeah, so nowadays I sweat, it's minimal compared to the palms. For the palms didn't work. So they're like, you should keep trying all the topical treatments you can get.
So the topical treatment, so basically they have something called aluminum chloride, which is what is found in even your normal day-to-day deodorants, but it is a higher concentration. And usually, so those are usually recommended to be applied at night when the sweating is not as much as during the day. So other topical treatments that can be tried, there's something called Iontophoresis. I'll just mention it as it is. So basically, it's where you place, if let's say you're treating mainly the palms, you can use it for treating the palms or soles, sometimes the armpits. You place your feet in a solution. It could be tap water or a medicated solution where an electrical current passes through. So when that electrical current passes through, it's not to electrocute you or cause something like that. It just tends to block the sweat ducts. Then if that doesn't work, there are other treatments like botulinum toxin injections, so the Botox injections that people use. Now the only limiting thing about that is that it's a bit expensive, so it may not be available to everyone. And then if that doesn't work, there's also oral treatment where you can take oral medication to control the sweating. And then lastly, but this is as a very last resort, there are also surgical treatments that are available, but those we usually use them as a last resort. Yes.
Evelyn, that sounds expensive, and you said these things are expensive. Do you have support from NHIF?
No.
Insurance companies?
No.
They don't recognize hyperhidrosis?
They don't.
Dr.
They don't.
If this is a condition on paper, how come?
No, it is listed in the diseases that should be treated. So maybe what I would encourage her is to come. I don't know which insurance she tried, but I'm sure which one did
have NHIF. Yes.
Okay. There are patients we have treated on insurance for hyperhidrosis. Yeah.
But is the coverage as extensive because this is a lifelong condition?
Yes. There are patients who we've treated with the oral medication, for example, who have been able to get it through the insurance.
Okay. And the medication itself, I hear it's also not found locally. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case.
So where do you get it from?
Mine, I got it from Martin Kimamo. That's the founder of Hack Limited. So I guess he ships them from outside.
Abroad.
Yes.
Dr. Are we stocked up on this medication?
Yeah, that I will dispute because we do treat patients locally with the oral treatment. Yeah, so all those treatments I've mentioned are available in the country.
How about the topical ones?
They are available.
Okay.
Yes, they are all available.
We needed to have this conversation so that we know where we are at in treating and managing hyperhidrosis. You've talked about Hack Limited, that would be Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya. That in itself offers awareness and psychosocial support.
Yes.
How has that helped in your journey?
First of all, it helped me to build up my confidence. The first time I spoke to Martin, and that was the first time I made the first video ever. You know, I used to fear, I used to be embarrassed about this. I never talked to anyone about it. But I can see my confidence has been built from through Hack Limited. Yes, and each and every day I get stronger and stronger and stronger. I had to drop so many things. I had to drop my dreams. I really wanted to be an anchor. I really wanted to do so many things, to be an actress. I wanted to do so many things, but this condition made me to drop each and every dream I had back then. So the importance of this awareness is to tell anyone who's suffering from it out there that you can still do it when you get the medication. We didn't get the medication then. We didn't know what it was back then, but right now it's everywhere. You can get to know more about it through social media, and actually there's life. There's life living with hyperhidrosis. Your life can go on as usual.
And by the way, Evelyn is married with 2 children, so there is life beyond hyperhidrosis. Dr. Even as we're closing, speak to employers, speak to society, even as we interact and mingle with those living with hyperhidrosis.
This is a condition that is medically treatable. It is not a contagious disease, and they need to encourage and take these people as part of the society. So especially with the employers, there should be no discrimination. I think they should definitely be accepted into the workplace, into the environment. And I'm happy that she's been able to make milestones in her life. And I feel the dreams that you have, it's never too late to pursue them.
Yeah, I'm on a journey of rediscovering myself, as in doing the things I never used to do.
Yes.
So I still believe that there's chance, there's more time for me to do it.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
An excellent place to stop the conversation at. There is hope. Thank you so much, Evelyn Juma, living with hyperhidrosis, and Dr. Caroline Darathi, who is a dermatologist. And as you've heard, there's life beyond hyperhidrosis, and let's be each other's keeper and understand that there's some things you might not know about, but there's always an explanation to everything. Time now for Health Tip.
Fluorosis is a condition that is caused by hard tissue. Hard tissue means the teeth, the bones in your body taking up too much fluoride when they are forming. Most important time to avoid fluorosis is when a child is between 0 to 8 years old. So at birth there's some permanent teeth that have already started forming in the baby's mouth, even if you cannot see, they're already in the bone. So whatever they consume, whether in drinking water, in food, will affect their teeth finally when they come out at 7, 8 years. That's for the permanent teeth. Okay, so depending on how much fluoride is in the water, it will manifest on the teeth. So if it was very little fluoride, then they're going to be like white patches. You'll see they look a bit too white. If it's too much, then they start to become brown. So it can be so severe that the teeth are becoming brittle and they chip off.
Hyperhidrosis, such an eye-opener for so many of us, and this is being seen on our social media handles. Keep your questions coming through. Daktari will be answering them for you. Well, it has been Health Diary. My name is Gladys Gashanja, and we've been coming to you from the Grammar Suits here in Nairobi. See you. But But if it's still contained, you can still do that. I think Fidel wache kuongea at this point. Every time you speak up.
Unaona hizo footsteps zikiwa kwa intro?
It is Health Diary. My name is Gladys Gashanja, and as always, we thank you for giving us your company. We're coming to you from the Grammar Suits here in Nairobi. Now, I went to school with a certain girl, and I remember her so distinctly because she used to struggle with excessive sweating. I remember her trying to write her notes in class, putting a sweater over her book so that she could be able to write the notes properly. And when we grew and got into puberty, life became hell for her because she got so bullied because she was different. Today, I finally put a name to this condition, hyperhidrosis, and that's what we'll be tackling today and understand exactly how we can support those who are living with it, right after this fact of the matter. Hyperhidrosis is excessive sweating that's not necessarily related to heat or exercise. This disorder is characterized by excessive sweating of the palms, soles of the feet, groin, facial area, or underarms. Hyperhidrosis may present from birth or might develop later in life. Although not life-threatening, this type of heavy sweating can be uncomfortable, causing embarrassment and psychological trauma.
My excessive sweating started at early childhood. I was born with it. In a family of 4, I'm the only one with hyperhidrosis. So it was weird to me when I'm looking at my brother, my 2 sisters. For them, they are normal. Their sweating patterns are normal. Getting my ID was a challenge because they couldn't get my fingerprints. And the guy who was taking my prints was so brutal. The things he said to me, it was crazy. And my mom was there. My mom is my witness. She was there. Now for her, again at the back of her mind, this guy is tense. So she's busy telling me, stop tensing. So the guy was so brutal, and I remember his words. He said he doesn't have patience for people like me. Enda, rudi the next time. Or whichever day that you majasho imeenda, even though alisema. But through all the attempts, we managed to get my prints. But when I left there, I was so drained. But on my way back, I asked myself, am I the only person living with this condition? In the whole entire country, am I the only person with this condition? And by the way, I knew of this as a condition in 2007 through a TV show, the Tyra Banks show. That's when I knew it's called hyperhidrosis. So throughout the time, Miss Kwanajua. So I started pushing more on awareness. But on my inbox, now people started expressing the struggles they go through. And to my surprise, a lot of them, they were quoting suicide. Now, some of the available treatments in the country will be topical treatments. And the only topical treatments we have in Kenya is Dricla and Drysol. And the authentic, you'll get it at GSK Kenya. Now, we have the oral medications, which can only be prescribed by the doctor. Then you have Botox injection, which again is costly. So even when I'm interested in someone, on a lady, meaning I'm straightforward. This is what I have, and it's not going to end in the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks. This is me. People are going through a hard time. They're facing the same in their relationships because their significant other, they don't look at it as a serious issue. The moment you mention sweat, they just disapprove of it. And the sweat, but then the sweat doesn't smell. It doesn't smell. And if you ask any doctor, they will tell you the sweat that comes out of your palm is pure water. That's why you have to double in on all the fluid intakes. But in terms of fashion, black is my favorite. Black is bay. And mutu treat equal. We are human beings. We are not on witchcraft. We just have a medical condition that we cannot control.
It is a condition that many are living with, but very few understand it. Hyperhidrosis. That is a conversation today. To help us do this, Dr. Caroline Darathi, dermatologist, and Evelyn Juma, who is living with hyperhidrosis. Lady, thank you for joining me. Now, Dr. let's understand. Sweating is your body's mechanism to cool itself.
Yes.
But in this case, we're talking about an abnormality with sweating.
Yes.
What exactly is that?
We normally sweat to cool ourselves down. But for some people, the sweating becomes excess, more than what the body requires to cool down. And so when that happens, you will present with excessive sweating. So this can occur primarily, or it can be something that runs in the family, so it may be hereditary, or it may be due to an underlying medical issue. Yes.
Okay, and there are two types of hyperhidrosis, primary focal
Yes.
and secondary generalized
Yes.
hyperhidrosis.
Yes.
What's the difference?
So primary means for most patients with primary hyperhidrosis, it's something that occurs in their childhood or something that runs in their family. So in these patients, there's no underlying medical issue. It may affect only the face, it can affect the palms or the soles or the armpits. Then we have those patients who have, so secondary means there's an underlying cause for the excessive sweating. So such patients have to be investigated for an underlying issue.
So for Evelyn, this has been your reality for how long now?
For 30 years.
Almost all your life, right?
Yes, that's all my life.
Okay, and which one do you suffer from?
I suffer from primary focal, yes, which means I sweat from my face, underarm, my palms, my feet, and sometimes my whole body when I get the hot flashes.
And Dr. has alluded that it is most likely hereditary.
Yes.
Anyone else in your family with this?
Yeah, my brother. My brother has a craniofacial, which means he suffers from the face only.
So craniofacial means it's the scalp and the face. So you'll have, so sometimes you even see, like sometimes you go to a function, or sometimes if you see some pastors preaching, they're always having a handkerchief because they're really sweating a lot on their face. So that is craniofacial hyperhidrosis. Then if you have axillary affects the armpits, so the underarms. So they'll have like patches of sweat on their clothing. Then if it can affect the palms, so in this case it will be on both sides. So it will be on both palms or on the soles of the feet.
For you, you say you were born with it.
Yes, I was
How
born with it.
early did mom realize that you were different from the other kids?
When I was around 6 years, yes, I just gone to school. So for me, I noticed when I was in school, while writing, I sweat a lot. I used to dirtify my books. Other kids could laugh at me. So when I went back home, I could tell my mom, and that's how she noticed also that I have a condition that she also has nothing, or she has no knowledge about. Yeah, so for her, she thought it was hereditary because my dad had it and it disappeared at some point.
So can you heal from this because we think it's chronic?
Well, we can't say heal, but you can go into what we call remission. So there are people in whom it may persist, and there are some in whom with time it resolves by itself, not because of any medication you give. So the medication you give is just to control the symptoms. It is not to cure per se.
How was the experience in school?
It was tough. Actually, those were my toughest moments. Yeah, because, I couldn't mingle. I really avoided being in groups or even having friends, because when playing, you're different. Let me say it's a ball that you're kind of throwing to each other, you're playing and happy. When I get hold of that ball, throws it to the next person, I could feel that they didn't want to play anymore because it was so wet and all that. So they realized that maybe it was a contagious kind of condition. And so they really tried to like avoid me. I felt stigmatized, yeah, quite depressed, and I was so young still. So I still wonder why I still have it up to now, because even now at an adult stage, I still experience the same. Nothing has changed.
You mean the symptoms?
Yes.
Even looking at you, I can see the face has already started
exactly.
sweating. And does it get worse with age, or does it get better?
Well, for some people, it gets better. And like she said with her dad, it gets better and then it totally clears by itself. But there are some in whom it persists. So for patients with hyperhidrosis, there are those triggers that there are things that trigger so they'll have the normal excessive sweating that they have, but there are instances or things that trigger and make them sweat more than they normally would.
Have you pinpointed as to when that happens?
Let me say when I'm in public and I'm asked to speak, you know, there's so many people looking at you, waiting just to get to hear what you want to say. At that point, I think I get so excited, then the sweat pops up. So I get hot flashes, then boom, I start sweating.
So anxiety, for some people, spicy food, if they eat spicy or chili food. For some people, of course, if you engage in sports, so anything that the body would normally, for a normal person, would make them sweat. But now in someone who has hyperhidrosis, those things make them sweat excessively.
When everything is calm, like at night and you're asleep, does it also give you a break?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Why?
Because I might be just at home watching TV, then I just start sweating, which means that is without a trigger. So I also don't understand why. And sometimes when I'm sleeping, I might wake up at night and I'm sweating.
Dr.
Yes.
Help us.
So as you rightfully said, whatever we read in literature, in medicine we say diseases don't follow books or literature. So there are those, what we read in literature is that most people, or during nighttime, their sweating is less. But you'll still find some people, of course, the sweating may still be at night, but it is not as much as compared as during the day.
When we come back from the break, we understand the importance of the psychosocial support that is needed for those that are living with this condition. And I'm sure Evelyn can tell us stories about why this is imperative and also understand how best we can manage this condition right after this break.